Hey everybody, it's Eric from epautos.com, your libertarian car guy. And it's getting hard to review new cars because they're all so homogeneous and so devoid of personality. They are all remarkably reliable. They all start right up, none of them stall, they get pretty good gas mileage, yada yada yada, but they are supremely boring to look at, supremely boring and homogeneous to drive. But every now and a while, there is an exception, a black swan event. This is one of those exceptions. It's the new BMW 8 Series, which is a 4-seater GT Grand Touring Coupe. That's pretty much the only vehicle of its type right now that's on the market. The SL Benz, which is roughly similar, of course, is a 2-seater. Now, the rear seats in this thing are not exactly first class, but they are there, and theoretically you can put people back there, but more realistically it's a place to put your stuff. But who cares about practical considerations when considering a car like this that they've actually managed to make beautiful despite all of the constraints imposed on car companies by all of the endless government rigmarole having to do with safety. And in addition to beauty, it's also got the beast in the form of a twin-turbo V8 and 520-something horsepower, which gets you to 60 in 3.8 seconds. And you don't have to plug the stupid thing in after making a couple of 0 to 60 runs and waiting for the batteries to recharge like a little Tesla. Oh, I'm very quick in my Tesla, but if I use my Tesla's speed, then I can't go very fast at all because I have to plug in for a recharge. Not to mention the Tesla sounds like ass because it doesn't sound like anything. This thing, on the other hand, sounds wonderful, and I'm going to let you experience the sound that makes the entire Persian Gulf stand up and cheer, and the sound that made me fall in love with cars so long ago, and which is breaking my heart because the sound is rapidly going away. Anyway, here, I'm going to kick it over for you so you can hear it. Ready, steady? Now, here we go. Oh, smell the carbon dioxide. Isn't it wonderful? Listen to that. Blah, 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 blah. It almost sounds like it hasn't got catalytic converters. Doesn't just make you smile. Doesn't it just make your day? It's wonderful. The thing is amazing to drive, and it's incredible that a car that powerful is also as luxurious as it is to drive. Now, I do have to pick some nits because after all, that's what I do, and I can't just say that everything about the car is fantastic. So I found a few things, just a few things that I will point out that I would that I would have done something differently with had I been the great decider over at BMW. And mind you, what I'm about to say is entirely tongue-in-cheek, but again, have to say something. All right, so we've got this kind of trapezoidal LCD main cluster. And two things about it that I'm not a huge fan of. The first being that it's largely the same cluster that you would get in other BMWs, including lower tier, lower priced BMWs like the 3 Series and so on. Not that there's anything wrong with that, as Seinfeld used to say. However, I think that in a 6-figure car like this 850, there really ought to be something spectacularly special. Like, for example, this really neat, beautiful, jeweled shifter knob that you only get in this car. You don't get this in the 3 Series. You probably can't see it at night, but it has a little icon of 8 in there, and that glows at night, and it has all these really cool jeweled facets on it. Gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. Also, this real metal mesh, which is kind of like what you'd see a medieval knight wearing. And by the way, the entire roof on this thing is also carbon fiber, which I'll show you in a minute if I can. There's some dew on the roof, but hopefully I'll be able to show it to you. Okay, so the other nit is BMW's secondary LCD touchscreen, and again, not that there's anything wrong with it. Works perfectly well, but it's very similar to what you'd find in other less expensive, less prestigious BMWs. And if I'd been, again, the great decider over at BMW, I probably would have put something a little bigger, a little snazzier, put just something a little bit that isn't the same as you'd find in other BMW models. Now, let's have a look at the roof. It's hard hard to really give you an impression of the coolness of the entire single sheet of carbon fiber that is the roof on this thing. Real carbon fiber too, just absolutely stunningly beautiful. Oh, while we're at it, let's have a look under the hood. And with BMWs, just in case you've never played with one before, the hood catch is electronic and it's a two-step deal. You pull it twice. Once will open the initial catch, pull it again, that'll open up the second catch. People who aren't familiar with that sometimes struggle trying to figure out how to get the hood up. And notice, no cheesy prop rod either. The thing actually supports itself, so you don't have to put some little flimsy thing in there. And also, and I really like this, and I mention this whenever I get the opportunity, notice that the underside of the BMW's hood is finished as beautifully as the noticeable other visible surfaces of the car. A lot of cars will cheap out, including higher-end cars, and not paint, or rather not clear coat, the underside of the hood, the underside of the trunk, the door panel sills, and places like that you don't immediately see, but when you open it, you see this sort of flat, bleak-looking finish that looks like it's 15 years old, and that kind of sucks if you just spent a whole lot of money on a brand new car, particularly since I bet that it probably doesn't add $10 in materials cost, maybe 20, for an extra half gallon or however much clear it takes to finish up the rest of the car's interior. Anyway, here's the really pretty part. Here is the BMW 4.4 liter twin turbo V8, and as you can see, boy, they really snugged this thing in there. There is virtually no getting at anything in this car. Not that it matters, not that the people who buy this car are going to service it themselves. But it's really ingenious how they managed to snug that puppy in there. And it's got one of the nicer plastic covers, though it's still a plastic cover. This is knit number 3. Again, I'd really like to see a return to machined, polished cam covers, valve covers, and so on. For specialty cars like this, I understand that people who buy Camrys, Corollas, and what have you probably don't care what's under the hood as long as it works, and they don't have to think about it too much. But when you buy a car like this, you kind of probably are somebody who's interested in what's under the hood and may want to show it off to your friends. There are still some manufacturers that understand this, including my friends over at Fiat Chrysler, who own Dodge, and when you buy a Charger or a Challenger, particularly the Hellcat models, you'll find that the engines are painted beautifully, gloriously Hemi orange, and you can see them. They're not covered up by ugly plastic covers. So again, a very, very small, minor thing about this car, and I certainly wouldn't, as the saying goes, kick it out of bed for eating graham crackers. Anyway, more over at epautos.com, the web's best libertarian gearhead site. Also just posted the audio of my latest appearance on the Bill Meyer Show out in Medford, Oregon, and you may be interested in the latest skulky doings of our good friend Elon Musk. Got an article up on site about that. So again, thanks for listening, thanks for reading, and stop by and visit, post your comments, and we will catch up with you again soon.